Thank y'all so much. How's everybody doing? Good, good. I want to thank, I hate standing behind a podium, so I'm going to probably bounce around. Well, I'm going to still bounce around on you if that's okay. And I'll talk loud. But I want to thank Andrea. Andrea, if you give her a big round of applause. Thank you so much. And I know that, is Donovan in here? Donovan, we share something in common, just so you know. Their son is an amazing athlete who just signed with UT. He's going to be playing baseball there. My son, if you heard anything about my son, he's a freshman at Texas A&M, wide receiver. And so we share a lot in common. What you're going through, we went through last year this time. So very exciting time. And yesterday was National Signing Day. So I think for the folks who've been involved with that, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So congratulations on that. I want to thank everybody for being here. For me, this is a really good opportunity for me to be able to talk now. If you remember in some of the outlets or newspaper outlets, I was not able to speak. And if you know anything about me, right, Bonnie, if you know anything about me, I like to speak. And so being able to speak now for me is very healthy and therapeutic. So I'm really glad to be able to talk. And when you haven't done anything wrong, it's easy to talk, right? It's easy to be able to converse. It's really easy. So I want to thank all of the folks here at the ensemble. Are they here today? Because I want to give them a big round of applause for allowing us to be in this facility. Can you give them a big round of applause for letting us be here today? I was in the Blue Tiger Room. How fitting is that? So if you've never been here and watched anything, you probably need to come here, buy some tickets, and see some of this talent that's here. Looks like a great facility. I was here not too long ago, actually, in an event. I'm going to make sure you have 3 key points today. I think it's going to be important. If you don't take anything away from what I'm describing today, I want you to focus on 3 key areas. And I'll go pretty deep into those areas, but I know for our media folks in here, these are things that I'm going to try to lead you in the direction where you can find out where this game is being played. I had to really read this through, and as I read through their document, I thought, wow, this really is a witch hunt. I have never been involved in my 25 plus years of working in higher ed with a calculated witch hunt. And I will, it doesn't take long. I got my notice on, what was that? Was that Wednesday? Tuesday? When did it? Anybody can tell me? I've lost track. Tuesday, I think it was 4 pages. I knocked out about 8 pages that you're going to see. I'm very transparent. You're going to see every single thing that I wrote. Some of you may already have it, but we're going to make sure you have it to counter every point that they were trying to make where they had no evidence at all. And so being in a witch hunt for the first time is a little tricky. I want to make sure we separate some things. Let me give you the 3 points. Violation of 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Every person in my position is afforded an opportunity if they request to have a public hearing. We have requested public hearings because we're tired of them talking behind the scenes and in the room in closed session. We said, whatever you have, bring it out. We're not afraid. Bring out whatever you have. We are totally okay with you talking about anything because we haven't done anything. And you saw what they brought out, which I thought was laughable. And so we have requested that on a number of occasions, and we've never been afforded that. They have already violated my right then to have that public hearing. You only saw 2 people objecting. One was my attorney who ran up, big 6'8" guy ran up to the podium. They didn't let him talk. And then Regent Derek Mitchell actually objected going into closed session, as he should. He's a very smart guy and knows exactly what he's doing. SACS violation 4.2b. This deals with the distinction between the administration, right, and the board. There's a reason why you have a president in place over university. In order to be accredited, SACS is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. That's how our institution is accredited. That's a big deal. If you lose accreditation, Marcus, you know what happens, right? You lose your ability to award financial aid. And how many students at TSU do you think rely on financial aid? About 90% of them. That's a big deal. They don't have financial aid, they don't go to school, right? So that's a big deal. I want you to remember that. There's a SACS visit. that's coming up on March 4th that we've been preparing for 2 years. And if you don't believe me, go find the article from Lindsay Ellis. She just put it out in the Chronicle of Higher Education. Lindsay Ellis used to actually work here. Brittany, you know who Lindsay is. She used to work here, actually. And she put out a dynamic article, and the article's title is something like the board, the only university that can actually fire everybody from the president to the janitor. It's one of the comments that's in there from Regent Terrell, who made that comment. And then the comment later on in the document is coming from Belle Whelan. Now, Dr. Belle Whelan is the president of SACS, and she's actually a native Texan. And Belle she is a phenomenal woman, knows what she's doing, and she's over all the schools that are accredited in the southeast portion of the United States. And her comment in that article is, at first blush, and I can't quote all the way through, but she thought this was just totally ridiculous. There are also experts who have never seen anything like this, where the board wants to control and work through the day-to-day operations of the university. There's no way that they're able to do that. The board can't evaluate employees. The board has too much risk when they're trying to do the things that I have to do every day to make sure that we're complying with our policies and our procedures. So I want you to remember that SACS violation of 4.2b. The last piece, and this is a policy actually that I wrote 2 months after I got here, was our fraud policy, 02.05.06. It's our fraud policy. It's in our manual of operating procedures. That's a manual that tells us how we operate, especially when you have allegations. Key word to remember, allegations of fraud. If allegations are uncovered, then they're known. You don't know about anything until they're uncovered and investigated. That's a key point they keep trying to make that they're going to lose on. When you have an allegation across the university, the Board of Regents is not an investigative board. They're not supposed to be, because they can be involved in the fraud. We had 2 board members that currently sit with us on the board that went to our law school, where we had allegations that came in about them. So why would you turn an investigation over to a board, right? You give it to the internal auditor, which is Charlotte Parker Thompson, who does, I think, a really good job every time if she's allowed to do it. The board hijacked her internal investigation. So those are my 3 points. I don't want us to miss this point. I have alums that are in the audience. If you give yourself a round of applause. Any Tigers in here? TSU Tigers in here? Great. I want to first and foremost apologize for the embarrassment that this has caused you. I went to Langston University, University of Oklahoma, and the University of Alabama. And if I read about my institution the way you're reading about yours, I would be furious. That's why you saw the passion the other night. I'd be furious, because that's how you earn your living, right? That's how you earn your living. When you're around Houston and you tell people where you went to school and you say Texas Southern, you don't want people to frown. Texas Southern is on fire. So let's separate what's happening with the board and what's happening with our graduates. Texas Southern is doing very well. And you have seen that and witnessed that over the last 3 years of me being here. You've seen that. We have evidence of that. Right? We can prove that. So I don't want you to get down. It's recruiting season for those seniors who are trying to go to college. This is the worst time to have something like this. So I want to make sure that I'm not selfish and just me trying to talk about my issues. We have other students who are trying to get to our institutions. I spent 25 plus years doing this at the University of Texas at Arlington, where I started, Tyler Junior College, Lone Star College. I was the president at Lone Star College, Montgomery, and then the executive vice chancellor in the Lone Star College system. I have a record that speaks for itself. I've never been terminated from anything. I've never been accused of anything. You can go out and check and see. So I don't have anything to hide. I'm an open book. But I have done it the right way each and every time. I'm also an adjunct. I've taught at Sam Houston State University and other universities and done a lot of work there. My wife coming in, yeah, if you get my wife, I got to make that go home. You want to come up there? Babe, you want to come up? Oh, yeah, okay. No, she didn't come up. She said that too quick, didn't you? Okay. So I want to make sure that those pieces are. So talk just a bit about the poorly written termination letter. when I read it, I thought, wow, you needed 3 law firms and a PR firm to write a poorly written, accusation-filled with no fact document. And you can see it. It should be published somewhere. If not, we'll give it to you. It was a joke when I saw it. I thought, what in the world is this? Poorly written. You hear a lot in there about it. You appear to be. We think you did. There's no evidence if you look in that document whatsoever. Basically, I would have to be God to satisfy the requirements that they were talking about. I'd have to know everything at all times and have no staff at the university in order to do my job correctly in their eyes. That in and of itself is a problem. The last piece I want to focus on is one of the statements, and I will read this. Their opening paragraph in the letter to me read this way. It said, the board's determination to propose the termination for cause was made after conducting a detailed and ongoing investigation concerning troubling issues which have arisen during your term of employment. So let's talk about my term of employment. I've been here now almost 4 years. Okay, the board members who are on there now, 5 of them were appointed less than a year ago. A lot of people don't know that. Our 5 board members just showed up, so they wouldn't know anything about my term of employment. It's the folks who honored a second contract for me before those 5 got here. It's my evaluations. It's the targets I've hit that did trigger bonuses for our hard work at the university. But these 5 that just got here wouldn't know anything about my term of employment because they weren't here. So it's a little troubling. And also I was troubled in reading that because I thought this was investigation over admissions and proprieties. We kept hearing that, right? Admissions and proprieties, but yet I'm getting a letter that tells me about things that have happened in 2017, 2018 that have nothing to do with me. So I find that to be a little strange. As I mentioned earlier, it feels like a witch hunt when you start to get into those kinds of things. I had Gerald Smith, and I have to give him a plug. Gerald Smith is over our foundation board. Gerald Smith is an amazing TSU alum, and I'm almost embarrassed that he has to, along with other foundation board members, some are in this room, have to be put on a seat as if they don't know what they're doing. Everybody in their right mind in this city, if you're working at a university, knows that you better not do anything in spending state funds. And if you're going to do anything to cultivate donors and have folks come to Maroon and Gray, which most of you in this room have attended, then that's how you cultivate donors with private dollars, unrestricted private dollars. If you look at the article that Brittany wrote yesterday, she's got a quote from Gerald Smith speaking to that effect. He said nothing was excessive, right? These are things we do to cultivate donors with private money, not state money. So nice try, but you're not going to put me in that bag. It's not that easy. I have a number of counterpoints in a document that we will share with you. We are fully open book, transparent. I really want you to read that because you'll get the context of everything. You actually start to figure out what they were actually trying to do to be able to come up with something because they didn't have anything. And you'll be able to see that. So we will send that out. We will make sure that you have it. And that will be good. Andrea's motioning at me. You're trying to tap? Oh, okay. She's trying. Okay, that's so. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Again, we'll get that document out, and hopefully you get a chance to read through it. No, Andrew.
This is a witch hunt. So what do you think? Why do you think that they're coming up?
You know what? I'll give you a couple of reasons. When I started here at Texas Southern, I had a staff that I inherited that was about 11 or 12 administrators on my cabinet. None of them are here today. So when I came in, I didn't make a lot of friends. When I came in, I had to make some tough decisions and clean up some areas that were dysfunctional. And you all know, you have the history of Texas Southern when you have bad actors that have been employed and they are retired on the job, right? And I didn't come to Texas Southern for that. I came to Texas Southern to have the kind of success that we've had. So I've had to remove some people. Matter of fact, I just read something earlier today. Some guy was bragging, saying we're going to go after him because he was here in 2015 before I got here. I don't know him from Adam, but he lost his job because he didn't do what he was supposed to be doing. And I've always been that way. It's not about me; it's about the university and the progress we're trying to achieve. And if you're in the way of that, then we're going to move you out of the institution. And we've done a lot of that over the last 3.5 years. Matter of fact, after this meeting, you'll probably have a lot of people come out of the woodworks and say, yeah, I was fired too, but we've done it all the right way. We don't have lawsuits from that either. You can check that too. Lloyd?
Doctor, you say this is a witch hunt. Is it a Republican witch hunt?
I don't know. I do know that our board is appointed by the governor. I've never had a negative interaction with our governor. Matter of fact, I would hope that our governor would intervene and make sure that the violations stop. Again, it doesn't have to be about me, but make sure the violations stop and make sure that this board respects our alum that are in here that want answers. And that they realize that they are the Board of Regents. They're not Texas Southern University, right? They're here as appointed board members. And so I don't know if that's a witch hunt, but I've had to do some things, even with members of our board, in correcting them with SACS 4.2b. I've had to tell some board members that no, we can't hire your sister. No, we can't hire your brother. And they haven't been real happy with that. And but I'm not going to jail for them. Right? I came here to do a job and to do it with integrity. Yeah. Yes?
Do you want your job back? And if so, how would you work with the board in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have always been able to effectively work with anybody. Hopefully you can tell. I mean, it's not hard working with me. And I've had a great relationship in my 3 years of being here with the first board I came in with. I mean, I guess that's why they extended me, and we've had a lot of great success. And so I understand the deference that it takes to work with a board. And I totally understand that. I submit. That's fine. I think in order for me to stay and do what I love, in all honesty, we've got to correct the 4.2b, and we've got to do it before March, or else the university is going to be on probation. And that's going to be a problem. And so the board is going to have to change that policy. If you go back to the October 25th board meeting, that's for everybody in the room. October 25th, or that board meeting, if you watch it online, they made, in my opinion, a very catastrophic mistake in saying that they can hire and fire anybody. It totally goes against 4.2b. You can't do that. So for me to come back, in all honesty, that would have to change. You notice I didn't mention a person would have to leave, or I can work and get along with anyone as long as they're not accusing me of something. But, I love being at Texas Southern University. But I'm here today to make sure my reputation, my family's reputation is not tarnished. And that's what I'm here today for. So.
You sound frustrated with the investigation itself. On a personal level, what's making you so aggravated with it?
Just the lack of transparency. I think like everybody else, we're all looking for transparency. And when we finally got something the other night, it's like it took the air out of us, right? And I think they really believed that I was going to try and beg them not to come out and say something. Well, I had been requesting a public hearing anyway. I said, shoot your shot. Whatever you have, let's throw it out there. So I didn't have any worries with that. But the investigation's been behind closed doors. That's a lack of due process. Whether it's me or the next president or whoever, it's just unfair. And so I've been real disappointed, even though they've had 3 attorneys, which I'm sure they're spending a lot of state taxpayer dollars on that. But these folks are somehow investigating, and again, they came up with a product that I thought was, at best, if I was a faculty member grading it, I wouldn't even give it a grade, I'd give it a redo.
You had mentioned,
I'll come back.
you had mentioned the board had claimed admission improprieties. You have 30 days to respond. What do you plan to do?
Yeah, when you haven't done anything, you respond pretty quick. So I mentioned that I got my notice on a Tuesday, and I'd already knocked out yesterday. They gave me 4 pages. I knocked out 8 pages, and you're going to be able to see it. That's my response. So I'm already done with my response. And again, when you haven't done anything, it's easy to do. So you'll see in there point for point me basically refuting everything that they're saying. There's nothing in there of substance, in my opinion, and in my attorney's opinion. He went through it as well. So my document is already done. The ball will be in their court.
Dr. Lane, a quick question. What was the relationship like between you and the board before all this came out? Did you feel like you were blindsided with all of this?
Yeah, I do. That's a great question, Chauncey. I do. My relationship with the board, I thought was fine. Matter of fact, in that October meeting, you'll hear the chairman even say, Dr. Lane's doing a great job. I think that's a quote. Twice, yeah.
And another member.
Yeah, twice. So if you go back to...
Some heads go wrong.
That's right. Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good point. That's my guy there. He got all the facts. You don't shut him up, you better let him talk. But that's exactly it. And so you had folks who, they said it there in public. It was pretty clear, and they really, I think, threatened all of us. You didn't get to see this, but after that meeting, we went into closed session. And I went in with all of my staff because we were called in, and we were admonished. And they said, look, when we call you, you better get a response. When we can fire you, right? And we're taking over personnel. We're giving it to Regent Terrell, which I never heard of. Regent Terrell, a board member that does all the hiring and firing. I've never seen that in my life, and still doing it today. So, and he's got 2 allegations that have been lodged against him from my special assistant, Wendell Williams, that was fired.
Amen.
Right? And so, go figure. He was fired because he had 2 claims in on the guy who does all the hiring and firing. There's a problem with that. And so but my relationship with him, remember, I can work with pretty much anybody. My record speaks for itself. But I can't work for folks who don't have integrity and for folks who are violating codes that I know as president we have to adhere to.
Mr.
Yes.
President.
Hey.
So, the university's reputation is very important, and so the accreditation issue is very concerning to everyone who has a degree from Texas Southern University or work for Texas Southern University.
Yeah.
How concerned should the university be about accreditation?
Yeah, a lot of boards make the mistake, and they think when a president submits to them, as I did, a document that just simply says, beware of the decision you just made in October. It could impact accreditation. Okay, forget me, because remember, I've got alums, and this is your degree. If you say I went to Paul, I can't say it. I won't say it. If you've gone to a school that lost its accreditation, that's embarrassing. And we know where those schools are, particularly the HBCUs, right? Whether it's Atlanta and some others who have lost it, right? Those students have a worthless degree. And so when you talk about 4.2, you don't want to violate that. Of all the things in the SAC standards to violate, that's not the one. Because that is about 90% of what schools get cited for when they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's critical. It's very critical. Yeah.
Dr. Lane, you mentioned, I got 2 questions. You mentioned that there is an ongoing investigation. Are you aware of any of these particular investigations? Who's conducting them?
No. That's been the million-dollar question. We hear all this stuff about local law enforcement and all these kinds of things. What local law enforcement are we talking about? They mentioned when they came out of closed session that they've concluded their investigation, and now they're giving me my notice of termination. I don't know if that document is public. I think a few reporters here have been asking to see the document, to see what law enforcement agencies they're really working with. No agencies would be working with me. They would probably want to be following whoever it is that they're looking for. But I couldn't tell you. You remember, I went into a closed session back in October, and I didn't hear anything. I didn't meet with them at all again until that night of the board meeting on Tuesday. So I've not been privy to it. I was interviewed twice by our internal auditor and by one of their firm folks that were there. One meeting was about 4 hours of nothing, nothing to do with me, and the other one was about 10 minutes, right? And so I have no idea what investigation. You want
Second question.
you're giving me a
Second question
yeah.
I had was, you mentioned the bylaws changes that took place at the year prior.
in October.
Other than Wendell Williams, are you aware of any other personnel decisions that Regent Terrell have made that troubled you?
Oh yes, that's a great question. 3 in particular. 2 employees that were here that were bad performers, just personnel issues. One that was in his first window of, that year window of being a new employee. But 2 of those employees had actually submitted resignation letters. Regent Terrell had them rescind their resignation letters and didn't inquire with the appropriate VP about why they were pretty much being put out of the institution. Another person actually was demoted because of a performance issue, because he was trying to help some of our local state representatives with their tuition. And we'll talk about that a little bit later if we need to, and we stopped that. And you all know who this will be if I tell you. But we stopped it and said, look, we're not going to help any state reps or senators or anything like that go to school at Texas Southern for free. That person was demoted and scheduled to be terminated in December. They're now back in their job working. And list goes on. He's done about 80 decisions to date. Yes, last question here.
I know they said that you have 30 days to go in front of the board. What's your plan? Are you going to go in front of the board? Or
Well,
what's next step?
yeah, if you notice in their speech at the end, they said, yeah, you have 30 days, but you also can invoke your mediation clause in there. So in my contract, there's a mediation clause. My attorney and I will talk, my wife and I will talk, and we will decide what our best option is in terms of invoking the mediation or coming back in 30 days, but we'll find out and put the ball in their court at that time. Okay? Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
The board will have the final say, right? So you're going to go back to them again?
Board will have the final say unless we go to mediation, or if not, we go right back. But I'm not really worried about 30 days, just being honest with you. What I'm worried about is my reputation and my wife's reputation in the job that we have done at Texas Southern University. That's all I'm worried about. That's why we're here today, to make sure you have the other side of the story, which we haven't been able to say because we have a gag order put on us. And so, this is our opportunity to be able to talk. So we appreciate you being here. I want to thank my wife publicly. She's done a great job in kind of helping me through this. And so, and all my family that's here as well, thank you guys so much. And we appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.